All righty, so we are back for the final segment of today's Activated Morning program. And yeah, as I said, I've been flying solo this morning. Both Crystal and Ari couldn't make it. And Karen, I need your assistance for one quick second, please, if you don't mind. Or do I? No, I don't. Karen, my apologies. No, I don't. I don't. All right, so we are in our Talk to Me segment for today. This is a segment that is really dedicated to you, the listeners, for you to raise whatever topics that you want to raise. I know that in the cop chat segment, there was a call that was coming through, but because we were wrapping up, we couldn't take the call at the time. All right, so if you wish to lend your opinion or your thoughts to something that was discussed, whether it was in the cop chat segment or the segment that I had previously where I spoke on my dissatisfaction with the premature end to the national budget debate, or the Sandals, the article in the Searchlight newspaper regarding the comment from the Sandals worker, right? Those were the two things that we touched this morning. So I'm giving you like 5 seconds if you wish to call before I get into another topic, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So I want for us to touch on this particular topic. That is accessibility does not mean availability, right? For those of you who are on social media, well, I saw it more on Facebook. I'm not really a TikTok person, so I haven't really been seeing them on TikTok. But there are a lot of these videos that I'm seeing surfacing on Facebook in particular with a lady called Veronica, right? So she's given different examples of the workplace environment. And, you know, I found them amusing, but they are so relatable, right? So we're going to touch on the topic of accessibility does not mean availability. And I'm just going to play a short video for you, right? So just listen to the contents of it, and then I discuss my opinions based on it. So let's go.
Good morning, Veronica. Do you have a quick second?
Yeah.
I sent you a time-sensitive email yesterday. I haven't received a response.
Well, I just got in, so I am checking my emails now. I should be responding to yours within a few minutes.
Oh, okay. So when you first got hired in orientation, they should have shown you how to download our email system onto your cell phone. This way you don't have to be at your workstation in order to receive the emails.
They did. I just opted out of that option because I don't check my email after hours. I'm not a 24/7 employee, Janet. I'm so sorry. There's just no way that you're going to have access to me after 5 p.m. If you want me to be on call and you want me to respond after hours, that's fine, but that's going to require some on-call pay or a stipend. But I'm not just going to have the email on my phone and let you have access to me whenever you want. If it's a dire emergency, as a manager, I think you can take care of it. And if it's not an emergency, it can wait till 9 a.m. the next day. But I'm not downloading email onto my phone, not work-related email.
All right, so that was a very short skit. And as I said, there are several of these skits that you can find on social media. Just type in Veronica skits, right? You would find them. Now, the reason why it is that I'm bringing this up is that I found it so relatable, right? There are instances where, you know, just because an employer, and I'm not just going to focus on the work environment in this particular case. I'm going to focus on just general methods of communication, our misconceptions or our presumption that because persons are accessible means that they're always going to be available, right? So this first skit, or this first, yes, in it right, skit? Yeah, this first skit is in relation to an employee who is saying that, number one, she's not downloading work emails, or she's not going to be accessing work emails on her phone, right? Also, you know, in the context of not being able to be reached after a particular time. Now, I know that there are many persons who can understand and appreciate this because I tend to find that there are instances where some employers are of the opinion that you are on call at all times, right? That whole right to disconnect, and the right to disconnect is an actual law that has been passed in several countries in Europe. I know it's been passed in Ireland. I think it's been passed in Spain as well. There is an actual right to disconnect where employers legally cannot reach employees or make contact with employees during their personal hours, right? Now, the thing of it is that I'm not even trying to make it sound as if I'm being so hard and fast about um, persons not necessarily extending themselves beyond work hours to their employer, right? I think that there is an opportunity for there to be a bit of a give and take, but there are instances when we can see that this allowance is being abused, and there are many times too when I think of within the work environment, persons do not feel as if employers value what personal time is, right? They don't value what downtime is. And it's one of those suggestions where persons, an employer may tend to put something over your head in the sense of making it seem as though you can be replaced at any moment, etc. Now, it's not to say that you're necessarily as an employee going to come in to watch the clock, do as expected and leave. I think, as Joshua is saying, that there can be some compromise in this particular aspect, but I think when persons feel as if it's being, or an employee feels as if it's being overdone, you get an employee who is going to shut down, right? So as I said, there is that issue, or there is that thing about that right to disconnect. And I know that I know that employers are going to be looking at it from another vantage point, right? But I'm not focusing on that other vantage point in terms of, let's say, their employees who come to work and who are not doing the work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the topic that we're speaking of, because, of course, in a topic such as this, there are many tangents that we can go off of and to have a discussion on. But the point that we're focusing on right now, the point that I'm making right now, is the point of employees being able to respect, and employers, no, I'm saying it wrong, but I think you understand what I mean. Employers being able to respect employees' downtime, because you really do have to have after hours, that time to just breathe and enjoy life a little bit. Everything can't be about work. Everything can't be about answering an email, especially in the case where you're not even working for overtime. Is it the expectation that just because you can reach me on my mobile phone, or just because communication can be sent to my phone, means that I'm going to be accessible, right? By extension, all right, so Anna's making a point here. Let's see what Anna's saying. That's why in a good work environment, there should be boundaries. Sometimes there should be compromise. But on the other hand, the employer should not take advantage of his or her employees. And that's exactly the point that I'm making, Anne, right? We're not necessarily saying employees need to be hard and fast about things, but there needs to be a bit of compromise. As I said, this is an open session. So if you have an opinion to lend to this discussion, the number to call or to WhatsApp is 457-9997. All right. Also, in terms of the accessibility, now I can speak from the vantage point of a business owner as well. There are times when you have persons just messaging at some real random times to ask a question. Now, the thing of it is that I am quite okay with you messaging. Or maybe, am I really okay? Sometimes I am, right? It depends on the hour that the message comes in. But there are instances when persons message or call at some really weird times, right? Like for me, I feel as if when I was growing up, like you did not communicate with persons who you were not necessarily very close to past 9 p.m. Right? I just have that in my mind that is not something that I would practice. Like if I'm not very tight with you, I'm not going to reach out to you to ask you, especially a work-related question past 9 p.m. Right? But there are persons who think that just because everything or you are able to be reached on WhatsApp, it means that an instant message should be sent. I should respond via instant messaging. Now, the thing of it is that for me personally, is that there are times when I do have my downtime, right? You see, like a Friday afternoon, probably don't chat me because, the weight of the week I find comes down on a Friday. And that is the time when I just try to catch back myself, right? So in my instance, like I would not answer messages. Well, it depends on who it is, right? I would not answer messages on a Friday afternoon, depending on what it is. But promptly on a Saturday morning, I would do so. Now, I know that many times persons speak about customer service and lack of response time and etc. by persons. But there are also times when I think that customers have a level of expectation or unrealistic level of expectation from especially small business owners, right? In that we're always available. Now, yes, we are in need of the business. No one would ever say no, right? I would be in need of the business. But don't think that because you message me, let's say at 9 p.m. to ask me a business related question that I'm going to respond right away, right? Persons use their discretion in that regard. In talking about accessibility as well, you know, a little situation happened with Crystal, and yes, Crystal, I'm bracing the situation here, where Crystal's phone was actually, her phone screen was damaged, and you know, not hearing, sent Crystal a message. What was it? New Year's Day, I think it was. There was no response, right? Sent a message on all Year's Day, we weren't getting Crystal. So now I start to go into a panic, and poor me wanting to ask Kieran to go and drive by Crystal house to see if she was okay. Now, the interesting thing, it was that her phone screen was damaged. So that was the, my apologies. So that was the reason for us not being able to access her. But when she came back and when her phone was up and running, she said something like, not being in contact with persons felt so liberating. And I understood exactly what she meant, because there are instances when WhatsApp is down where I feel like the world is just so quiet. You know, there is no messages to respond to. I am not distracted, right? In terms of looking at status updates, etc. The world is so quiet. And you know, there are times when persons do decide to take a little break from social media, and social media also includes WhatsApp. You know, there are times when, depending on the mood that I'm in, you know, if I'm not in a good mood, I'm just real tired. You know, my phone would go on do not disturb. I put my phone out of sight, and you know, persons cannot reach me. Now, the thing of it is that we tend to go into a panic whenever we're unable to reach persons, for the mere fact that we have it's just so easy now, you know, like somebody, you call somebody, it's automatic that we're going to get them maybe on the second ring or whatever, right? So not being able to access persons also sends us into this state of panic. And you know, I think sometimes when we think about this situation as well, is are we doing ourselves a bit of an injustice? You know, technology is there for a reason. Instant communication is there for a reason. But then when we're so bombarded with calls, with messages, you know, that bit of time to ourselves, do we actually have that bit of time to ourselves? You know, the minute that you cannot reach somebody, we go into that state of panic. No, on the other side, because there's always another side to everything. You know, the point of somebody not their pattern of behavior changing, as I said, if they don't respond instantly, we tend to go into a state of panic, because it's a changed behavior. It's not something that we're accustomed to, so we automatically think that some harm or danger has come to them. And we have heard of instances where persons have, quote unquote, disappeared, you know, just to be able to catch back themselves a little bit. But yeah, so it's that whole topic of accessibility does not mean availability. We look at it in the context of the workplace. We look at it in the context of, well, employer-employee relations. We are looking at it in the context of what was the second one again? We're looking at it in the context of, from a small business vantage point, or from a business vantage point, and then we're looking at it from the context of friendships or even family members, you know, that whole thing of instant communication. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts that they wish to add on this. But it's just something for us to bear in mind as individuals, you know, from your vantage point of taking that personal time, taking that downtime, wanting to disconnect, wanting to be left alone, you know. And it's also a matter of respect as well, you know, the employee respecting that the employer respecting that employee's time to themselves, as well as even our friends. You know, if you don't get me, maybe let's say within a 6 hour period, you know, maybe then you could panic. Or maybe do you have the right to panic? You know, it's all of these type of questions. But yeah, that's just a point there. Okay, so Trevor's making a point here. Let's see. All right. So Trevor's saying, do companies employ responsible adults or people they want to micromanage? Woo, Trevor. Very good point. He continues, try reading the Starfish and Spider leadership practice. Okay. Only micromanager will do this and you won't be working for them in the first place, right? Employers cannot call an employee out of hours unless they are on duty call, right? And that's the thing too, it's like it really is a matter of respect. And yes, I can take the point of micromanaging, because if you've left somebody in a position of authority, or if you've left somebody with a task, do you necessarily need to feel the point to constantly be communicating with them, right? There are ways in which for you to reprimand or to pull up an employee who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know. And just because you've sent an email doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily respond right away. So, these are little things that I think employers have to look at. You also find instances where there are employees who, because they are in this position where they feel as though they are constantly having to be in communication with their bosses, that they tune out, right? And it's not necessarily a case where they don't like their jobs in terms of what they actually do on their job, or they don't want to be within the work environment, but some of it comes from the employer. Now, if you're micromanaging, if you're constantly calling about this, constantly calling about that, bombarding with emails, as opposed to one email and listing everything that you require in that one email, you are going to have employees who are going to be frustrated, not because they don't like the job, but because they're not happy with the way in which the manager is relating their interaction with them. All right, so that is just my talking point. As I said, I'm flying solo this morning. So that's just my little opinion regarding the topic of accessibility does not equal or does not equate to availability. All right, so let's take a break at this time and we come back with Community Dateline.
Death is a fact of life. Even though death is a fact of life, that doesn't make it any easier. When dealing with the loss of a loved one, you may try to be strong,